All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Kronos Group podcast. I am your host, Jerry Brazy of the Kronos Group, here with Steve Floyd, also of the Kronos Group. Missing today is Matty Floyd. He is out and about doing his own thing. We're not exactly sure why, but he was too good to be here with us. So it is up to Steve and I to carry the day. Steve-O, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. Good day. It's a good day. Learned a lot. Yeah, I learned where I was screwing stuff up just with the way you say words. Same words. It's really important how you say them if you want the impact to land.
That's exactly right. It's amazing how much of that, when you hear that stuff too, you're like, oh, of course, that makes all the sense in the world. Why in the hell have I been saying it like this all this time?
Yeah,
I'm a
you hear them
loser.
saying, like, I said the same stuff. Now listen
Right.
carefully. And then listen to a recording of you. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. You're
Right.
reading, sounds like you're reading something. So, yeah. So it was a good day.
A,
Hopefully clear some stuff out of the way.
a quick update on my health. Anybody who is a regular listener to this knows that I started on February 9th at 257 pounds. Really quick background, though. I lost 100 pounds 4 years ago. I've always been healthy since then, but I put on 20, 25 extra pounds, putting on a whole bunch of muscle and eating way too much Christmas, my mother's Christmas candies, cookies, cinnamon rolls, and everything in between. So the holidays just beat me up. And so I started on February 9th, said I'm going to lose however many pounds, 257 to 229, and I had to do it by April 27th. So I had about 75 days. At day 51 was yesterday. I have averaged 3.1 pounds per week, and that has me down at 235.4 pounds, and it is going really well. And the cool thing, Steve, about this that I love the most is, Steve knows this, I do all of my health, all of my workouts, all of my diet, everything that I do goes in via an AI. And I'm using ChatGPT now simply because for me, Grok has trouble keeping up when I change the conversation inside of a chat. So I got frustrated with having to say, okay, Grok, I'm asking a different question than what we were just talking about. Because it would want to then integrate what I was talking to it about it before into the answer for the new question that I asked it. ChatGPT does a better job. I like Grok overall. I think it's much more thorough. Any research at all, I use Grok for. I don't use ChatGPT, but for actual writing and for going back and forth, I find that ChatGPT is much smoother. Having said that, both Grok and ChatGPT told me that I could expect 1 to 1.5 pounds a month, and anything over, or a week, and anything over that was aggressive, while still maintaining my strength because you're just losing too much weight. I, of course, said no, I'm not doing that. Since November 9th, I have yet to have a 2,000 calorie day. Since November 9th, since February 9th, February 9th, I keep saying November. Since February 9th, I have yet to have a less than 200 gram protein day. And obviously there's no cheat meals or anything like that. But the interesting thing is, I've had to take my son a few times he moved from one Army base to another Army base. We went and picked him up and drove him 11 hours to another one. So it was difficult to, I couldn't get my exercise in necessarily, but more specifically, when you're driving out all day, it's hard to eat. And so I have been keeping my calories under control with protein shakes and this is going to surprise you, Steve, chicken tenders.
Really?
Yes. So you can go now, again, it has higher fat, higher carbs, right? But if you get chicken tenders, let's say a good set of chicken tenders, like at Jonathan's here in town, or Chili's has great chicken tenders. And so I'm on the road, but I track everything. And so the chicken tenders have about, a whole set of them has about 700 calories, right? I mean, big, whole giant thing of chicken tenders, right? Because the meat itself, the white meat chicken, as long as it's white chicken breast, only has 200-300 calories in it, right? For 12 ounces of white meat chicken. But then you add another 300 or 400 calories because you're frying it, but I can still eat it. And then I get barbecue sauce and not like honey mustard. Honey mustard has 3 times the amount of sauce or of calories that barbecue sauce does. So am I advocating everybody eat chicken tenders? No. Does that mean I had to eat less food on the road because I'm eating, higher calorie food? Yes. But still, I would have a banana in the morning. I would have my protein shake. I would have another protein shake at the end of the day. I would have the chicken tenders. I'd have a big old, at Chili's, they got that big old piece of fried mozzarella. I'd eat one of
Yep.
those too. What else would I have? Oh, and then at Subway has these wraps now. So I would get a double meat, turkey, ham, and I don't know, whatever, turkey, ham, and salami, whatever the hell it was. A wrap, and the wrap, the bread has, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of calories, but the wrap, you get the same amount of bread, but in a lower carb wrap. So that whole thing was like 700 calories. So a day in, it's 200 calories or 200 grams of protein on the day. It was 1900 calories. I eat the same thing both days from the same places. And lo and behold, again, in the middle of all that, eating that food, the weight just continues to fly off.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to have. It's surprising, the tenders, though. It works like that.
Yeah. I mean, you read the menu and it gives you your calories. And if you ever look at it, the problem is the sauces. I'm not trying to say that deep fried chicken tenders are good for you. I'm not saying that. But in a pinch, in particular, because they're white meat chicken, this place that we go here locally called Jonathan's, they got 4 or 5 of those down here in Middle Tennessee. Their chicken tenders ain't playing, because when you dig into it, it's I don't know, it's 3/4 of an inch of chicken breast. That's part of those chicken tenders, right? And so you think about it in that context, it works really good for traveling on the road, and it tastes good. And I probably have eaten that since the 9th. Maybe I've had that meal 6 or 7 times, right? And I'm still losing 3.1 pounds a week. 3.1 pounds a week.
That's
because
aggressive too.
Correct. Right. That's with that big old wrap that I would eat at Subway, only when I'm driving. Anyway, what it's turning into is much faster times on the treadmill, much faster times on my walks. It's amazing how good I feel and how light I feel. And it's only been 23 pounds, but I was going to 229. I think I'm probably going to take it all the way to 220 and see how I feel. But things are going real well from that perspective.
When's the last time you were 220?
August of 2022, when I lost that 100 pounds. Yeah. So
what's the lowest you got?
I got to 217, but I was putting on muscle by then, right? So it's probably 210, 208, somewhere in there. It's probably, if I were to, commensurate with that. But I think 215 to 220. I originally thought 229. Dude, I'm going to be so skinny, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Now that I'm 235, I'm like, meh, I think it's got to be higher than that, or lower than that. I think I want to get to the right weight for me. And I talked to a lot of guys about this, and Steve, you and I have talked about this. Men, you don't need to weigh 200 pounds. The number of 5'9" dudes who are 250 who just tell me, if only I could lose 30 pounds, life is going to be infinitely better for me. And I'm like, 30 pounds? What are you talking? I'm 6'4". I'm, wide as a door frame. You're 5'10" and half my size. You should weigh 170. So you got to get a real number. Well, I thought my real number was 230, 229. And I've always said, man, I'll go down to 225. But now that I'm at 235, about to, again, I'll be in the 220s here next week and a half, 2 weeks. I think that just looking at myself, the real number is probably somewhere around 215 to 220.
Yeah. And it is something, that's one of the things I do, because I deal with part of what I do in sales is weight loss nutrition coaching. And that's one thing a lot of people say, you ask them, so how much weight were you looking to lose? And they'll tell you, I don't know, I want to get down 30 pounds. I'm like you were saying, I'm 220. If I could get down to 190, and I know it really needs to be 170 to your point on that. I said, and I always clarify with them, is that a milestone, or is it a real end goal?
Right.
Because a lot of people, to your point, and when you said that, it's like, yeah, if I could lose 30 pounds, yeah, but what do you really want to do? What do you really need to be at?
Right.
You don't want to just shoot that. You shoot, for the full amount. If you need to be down 50 pounds, you need to be down 50 pounds, to have your body really functioning the optimal level that it can. instead of setting some goal that's just a milestone thing. And when it's a milestone, you're not that serious. If I
To
could
be
just lose this, you're never going to start because it's not serious, with what you really want to achieve or even need to achieve.
That's right. That I agree with that. This whole thing, and it is prevalent on the internet about, just set your goals. And if you're 250, just lose 20 pounds. And again, you're going to feel better if you lose 20 pounds. But I think that is a loser mentality. I think that is you're setting yourself up that it's okay to fail, because if you should be 170 and you weigh 225 because you lost 25 pounds going from 250 to 225, you're still obese. So you're still fat. Now, is it better to be 225 than 250? Of course it is. But are you still obese at 225? Yes. So it's a meaningless number. The reality is that you should be 170 pounds, not 180. There's these numbers that men get in their head. 180 is another one, right? Like, I don't know, because I don't know what the weight limit or the weights are in boxing, but I'm going to guess, 170 is probably a middleweight or something. And then you start getting into 180s and 190s and you start getting towards heavyweights. I don't know. I'm making that up if that's reality. I don't know what the cutoffs are for boxing. But my point being is that every male wants to weigh 200 pounds. And if you can't weigh 200 pounds, you want to weigh 180 pounds. It doesn't matter that you're 5'6" and you should weigh 150. If I could just get to 180, then it's going to be golden. It's like, no, you're still going to be obese. So there's work to be done. And that mentality is, I think it's a loser mentality, to your point. I think you're setting yourself up for failure by saying, well, I lost 25 pounds, but I'm still 225. That's not the way I go about it. That's not the way I would recommend anybody goes about it. I would be honest with myself. I'm 250. I need to weigh 170. That's 80 pounds. I need to get going. But hear me, people. I'm down 23 pounds in 51 days. I lift 6 days out of 8. I have slightly increased my weights and or my reps across the board. I'm not blowing it away, but I'm not getting any weaker, because inside of that 1,900 calories a day, I'm eating 200 to 220, some days 240 grams of protein, which is all that I care about, is how much protein, because I want to keep the muscle that I have while I'm getting rid of all of the fat. The only way to do that is to eat protein. And then again, I work out regularly. So I'm not saying I'm adding on muscle necessarily, but I'm not getting any weaker, doing a very, very significant cut when we start talking about 3+ pounds a week. That's not, I'm well past the water loss program, right? You've depleted these different parts of you that come, particularly when you start a carnivore diet like I do. You lose all of that weight early on. All that weight is accounted for. It's all gone. This is all real weight now, because I'm past 20 pounds. I'm on my way to 30 pounds in less than 2 months. So
Yeah.
Losing 80 pounds, give me till August.
Yeah. And it is something that you, like I said, when you talked about it kicked up, and I think it is more of that, a little bit more of a ketosis kicking up, where it's actually burning body fat for fuel now. And there is something, going back to your point earlier about, somehow it's gotten, I don't know where it even came from, but if you're 200 pounds and you're a man, forget that you're, even at 200, you could still be 30, 40 pounds overweight for your height. It's just in that mind, and they'll just be comfortable with that. So you do see that a lot. I see it a lot day in and day out with my job, with people coming in, like if I could get down to about, they're 260, if I could get down to 200, but they never really say much below 200. I have to kind of get them there as far as an end goal for what's really healthy for their bodies. But there is that thing that attachment to, if I'm going to be a man and I can tell people I weigh 200, it doesn't matter what I look like, doesn't matter what my biomarkers are like, if they're gone to hell, if I can be 200 pounds in their mind, psychologically, they'll still be a man somehow. And it is something how I got,
right.
Even though you could see, like a NFL defensive back, a big safety, and they look, but dude, that guy is big, massive. Yeah, he's 195, he's 190, but running about 8% body fat probably, but look how muscular and big it is, because it is that. So, and the thing is, it's not like you're going to go around with a scale and, hey, I'm 200 and put it, because all they're going to look at is see what you look like. And that's the big thing I tell, and even towards women, especially growing up the way I did, it was all about the scale, but they don't realize as you get older, there's a lot of muscle weight that you'll lose that you need. You have to protect that muscle for longevity, for health. Your muscle's your biggest glucose absorber, when you get older. So when you do have glucose, when you do have carbohydrates, good muscle mass helps the body to absorb it and keeps you from becoming insulin resistant, which a massive part of our population has become now. Even kids that shouldn't be. They should have a natural metabolism that just burns it off, but our food is just so terrible in this country. The typical foods that, we eat and that gets pushed on us and advertised and marketed to us, especially kids being healthy and being this, and is marketed to the parents as this is a healthy thing, healthy snack, healthy meal for your kids. And don't get me wrong, I crushed more in my few share boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese, but there was an activity level, I think, that's missing too, because I didn't have games and TV. I mean, there was a certain time, even if it was a Saturday and I wanted, cartoons got over. And then it was very limited sports. And if it wasn't in season of something, there just wasn't anything to do. You just go out and play. You go do stuff.
Right.
If it's a day off during the week, you could even watch game shows up till about noon, but then it was soap operas and stuff. No kid in their right mind hung around for that stuff. You just went and did something. Right. So I think there was a natural activity level we don't have now because of the ability to have 24 hours, electronic digital stimulation now of anything you want to watch, good or bad.
And that's kids or young people, right? In video games, but I'm more active today. Easily, I move more today at 57 years old than I have ever moved in my entire life. I went out and did my 4 miles today. Throughout this cut, I'm doing 28 miles a week, no question. So I was only able to do 2 miles a couple of nights ago because I had to go in and work out at night. So I got on the treadmill, and I hate the freaking treadmill.
Jeez.
So then yesterday I did 3 miles on the road in the bright blue sunshine, and then went in and ran 2 miles on the treadmill. So I did 5 miles, right? Today I did 4 miles, and then I have to go back in and do the sauna tonight. It's a day off, but I didn't have time to do the sauna. So I'll go run a mile to make 5 miles, which makes up for the 2 mile day I did 2 days ago. And I'll get the miles in. The point being, though, that between the miles, the lifting, the sauna, and everything else I do, I'm more active at 57 years old with zero pain. I mean, some soreness, but I lift all of the time. I'm constantly working than I did when I was 37 or 47. But the reality is at 47, 10 years ago, I wasn't moving anywhere near like I am now. I didn't have the capability to it. I was fat and dying.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter your age, for moving, I guess.
Oh, there's so much, and somebody brought up something on our team. It's amazing how people get older. And now I can't unhear it when I talk to people. You ask them their age and it'll be like, well, I'm 74. Well, I'll be 74 this summer. And it's just a weird thing. They always want to be a little older. I don't know what
like when you were a kid.
They won't tell you that I'm 73. They're always telling you, hey, how old are you? Well, I'll be 74 in 2 months.
That's so true.
And I don't know if and I think it is because I hear so many times, people in their 60s and 50s, hear this myself on my calls all day. Well, I am, they're trying to justify where they're at, whether bowel markers, whether on blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, metformin, whatever it may be. Like, well, I am this age now. Well, I am this age. And there's not a time I miss an opportunity, let them know. Because a lot of times they think they're talking to somebody maybe in their 30s or 40s. And, it's like, well, hey, I'm 60, and sometimes I'll call them on it, and it doesn't have to be. And one guy, I got in a really good conversation with him, and it's like, I'll be honest, he was 62, just struggling, but he was still trying to justify, well, I'm 62 now. And I was like, dude, I couldn't even imagine living your life right now. And that's why I'm 60. I said the stuff I do, and I could not imagine everything you're telling me you wake up feeling every day. I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine what that life would feel like. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to be that way at all.
And that's most people, though, to your point, we're told this is how it is. I feel crappy because I'm old. My joints hurt because I'm old. My back hurts because I'm old. The knees are gone because I'm old. My neck hurts because I'm old. I can't get out of bed in the morning because I'm old. It hurts to get off the toilet because I'm old. And the reality is that I have a broken back. I got a bad heart. I got all those issues. And none of that bothers me outside of being sore because it's sometimes getting off the toilet after leg day, the day after leg day can be a little brutal. I ain't going to lie.
Fair enough.
Right? There's times I grab the counter and push myself up. I ain't going to lie. But again, I don't know what they're talking about at 57 with all of my heart issues. You don't know what they're talking about at 60, as healthy as you are. So you are fooling yourself. The thing that you and I have, Steve, is we have seen through the propaganda. We've seen through the lies. We've seen through what society throws at us by other people's, like poor people. Here's what it's like. Being around old people is like being around the people that you and I grew up with. I grew up, and Steve did too, but for me, it was institutional, generational poverty. And so everyone around you is poor. And people around you that are poor don't want you to get out of being poor. So if you're trying to crawl your way out, right, they're trying to grab you and pull you back, because if you get out and make it, it takes away all of their excuses about why they can't make it. The excuses that say that my counselor screwed me over, my mother is gone, my dad is a alcoholic, I was an orphan, or I mean, we all have, my neighbors hated me, my brothers and sisters don't support me, whatever it is. We all have those excuses. And so when somebody in that community sees somebody getting out, they want to pull them back. This is family, friends, community members, your teachers, again, your counselors, the people around you don't want you to succeed in the at-large neighborhoods that you grow up in. They're doing it. Some of it is conscious, and they're completely conscious of it, and some of it is that it's just built into them. It's generational at this point. And so then what's also generational at this point on the end of it is the people that will tell you that because I'm 63, I can't do X. Because I'm 65, I can't do Y, because this is what they've been told all the time. And if somebody like us comes along and says, not only are we your age, but in my case, I got some real significant health issues that I shouldn't be anywhere near the kind of shape that I'm in, it blows that up so they don't want to hear it. Because now you've erased, you've taken, you've stolen from them their victim identity, that victimhood that tells them that it is okay that I don't get off the couch. It's okay that I eat this garbage. It's okay that I go out and do the things and drink and do that regularly and have this terrible and smoke the cigarettes and all, and not go for a walk and all of those things because I'm old. So they get to indulge the things that they want to do because they're old. Except you and I throw that narrative out the window. You are old. You're not too old and you're not too tired to go to the gym. You are old and tired because you don't go to the gym. That's exactly the way it is. And really, it's not even going to the gym. It's eating a good diet.
Yes. A good 80+% of your weight is going to be controlled. And everybody tries to use the excuse that I talk to most everybody, that I've been meaning to get back to the gym. Well, I haven't been able to. My knees hurt and my hips hurt and whatever because of the weight. And that's really slowed me down. And now I'm not losing the weight like I used to because I can't go to the gym. And I'd really question, like, okay, tell me what your gym looked like. I mean, did you go in there, sit in that massage chair, go do a little bit of a tan, and then get out? What I call, Kirsty and I call, when we do go days like that, when it's not a lift day, call it a spa day. And that's what a lot of people do. They just feel good because they walked in a physical structure and justified that membership they've been paying for each month and forget about it because it's on auto pay. And there's a lot of people, to your point, exactly with the AFib that I talked to that have that, and they just talk about the limitations of it. And so many times I've heard, well, my doctor said, I got to really cut back on red meat because of my heart. And I don't have the time to go in to talk to them about it. And you might want to rethink that.
They don't want to hear it though.
No, they don't.
They don't
want to hear it. And it's just like, well, hey, because one of my questions would be like, hey, are you on anything is there any diagnosis? I don't even ask, how's your blood pressure, cholesterol? Oh, it's great. Well, yeah, you're on all these drugs to make it great. And it's not really great. It's, the drugs themselves are causing problems you don't even realize. But so many people say that, well, are you on anything for blood pressure or cholesterol? Any diagnosis? There's what I ask, whether they're on something or not. Well, I am. So many times I am, and it's just like accepted part of aging is that we will have to, and it just shows how well we've been marketed to, because it is because they want customers. And so if they can change, because I'm doing the same thing on the call, trying to help them understand what they could be and trying to change the way they see things, change the perspective on it, because the perspective has been so marketed to in this nation, and almost primarily this nation. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like only US and New Zealand allow pharmaceutical commercials.
That's right.
I think it's just those two, and how New Zealand's in there and Australia's right next to them doesn't even allow it. So we don't even understand, what that even looks like, and how it's just been that year after decade of this, that we just have been brainwashed and thinking that's part of it. And we've got your pill for you. Because when you get older, you will have cholesterol, diabetes, pre-diabetic, blood sugar issues, and we got you covered. Don't worry about it. Without even stopping to think. So a lot of times on a call, my call's about 30 minutes. You're trying to some degree, unravel decades of a perspective and a brainwashing for how things are supposed to be when you get older. And I think of that every time they say, well, I am this age. They don't even answer the question right away. They qualify what they're fixing to say with, I am this age.
Yeah. So that's the kiss of death. I am this age. And it's funny too, the thing you said, when you're a kid and you're 7.5.
Yeah.
And then you're happy being 30. Right? Nobody ever says I'm 40.5, right? But then you get to be 65 and all of a sudden I'm going to be 66 in 3 months. I'm going to be 67 in 11.5 months.
When you talk to another person, you won't be able to hear it now.
Dude, as soon as you told me that, I'm like, oh man, that's like seeing the arrow in the FedEx logo. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But while we're talking about it, that's funny. This dovetails into one of our topics, which was I've been running, and so I run for 2 minutes and then I jog for 2 minutes. But I'm getting to where I enjoy running. This is so stupid what I'm about to say, but it's true. I enjoy running because it gets me over having to run faster. Right? So if I'm jogging with my little jog that I'm comfortable and it doesn't really bother my body that much, it takes me longer to do it. But when I get up there and I go, okay, I'm going to run. I mean, I'm going for 8.5 minute miles, and I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to try to hump that out as fast as I can. We're talking sub 10 minutes, right? Or right at 10 minutes versus 12.5 minutes times the 4 miles that I do every day. And all of a sudden I'm getting done 10 minutes earlier. And so yeah, and I'll add to that I have been running now on the treadmill, and I'm going to walk outside. So I'm going to do 3 miles outside, and then I'm going to walk in and I'm going to do 2 miles inside. So I'm going to up my output to 5 miles a day. But the miles that I'm going to run, it's going to be walk and run, and I'm going to run on the treadmill because it's safer, right? It's less impact, and I can really feel when I run unless I do it on the treadmill. But having said that, on the treadmill, the other thing too is I'm banging out my 2 miles in 21 minutes, right? 21.5 minutes. And so I'll run at 5.2 miles and then for 2 minutes, and then I'll slow it down to 5. And then I'll go from 5 to 5.4 for 2 minutes, and then 5.4 to 5.6 for 2 minutes, and then back to 5 for 2 minutes, and then go back to 5.6 and then 5.8 for 2 minutes and 2 minutes. And by the end of it, I'm at about 6.4, 6.5, which is, a 9-15 mile, give or take. And then for the last quarter mile, I've done it the last couple of times, 7.3.
Wow.
So I ran 1 3/4 mile, and and I'm telling you, dude, not the goes off at tenths of a mile. It does it, 1/10, and 100 is 1 mile. And I mean, you get to 1.75 and now, okay, I got a bust. And that it clicks so quick. Yeah. And I mean, I'm busting at 7.3, but the tenth of it's not a tenth of a mile. It's whatever that 1/100th of a mile clicks off so fast when you're running that quick that pretty soon it's 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5. And you're like, I can make it. But it's a good, for me, at 7.3 miles an hour, it's a sprint. I mean, it's a real sprint. And I do that at the end of my 5 miles, and I'm sweating like a pig and it goes everywhere. But dude, I feel good, man. And the 23 pounds down has changed my life. So in that context, what we were going to talk about, one of the things we had on the docket today to talk about is giving some numbers to what being too heavy really costs you. So let me break this down a little bit, then we can talk about it, because I think everybody should listen to this. And the other thing we're going to talk about is Artemis and being out in space, and there not being there's no weight out there. But for every extra pound you carry on your body, it puts 4 extra pounds of force on your knees with every step you take. So if you normally take 10,000 steps a day, let's say you're a waitress or you're on your feet, whatever, right? You're working at a bank, standing there all day. You're talking about an additional 40,000 pounds of force every single day. So that's from the baseline. So maybe your body can handle the extra 10 pounds. I'm not saying that, right? I'm saying your body is overbuilt to handle the stress that you put on it. But over a decade, okay, over 5 decades, now what are we starting to talk about? Just like your heart, right? Beating against you're carrying an extra 50 pounds. So that's millions of extra pounds hammering on your joints every single day. Forget about stairs or squatting down to grab a part off the floor or just getting in and out of your truck or your car. I mean, the multiplier at that point jumps 3, 4, 5 times your body weight on your hips and on your ankles. So just losing 10 pounds, you drop 40,000 pounds of daily pounding on your knees. 20 pounds, that's 80,000 pounds, right? Think about where that number is. So if you're in your 50s or your 60s, and you finally drop 20 or 30 pounds because you've been bitching about how bad your knees feel, to our point, Steve, what we've been talking about right there, that gives some context, some math to the problem that so many of us have, particularly as we get older. We think we hurt because we're older. I think, based on my lived experience, that I had as beaten down and beaten up a body as anyone you would ever find, and it all went away when I lost 100 pounds.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat. What was that again? For every pound?
So it's 4 extra pounds of force on your knees with every step that you take. So it's 40,000 pounds of extra force if you are doing the average 10,000 steps a day. You're talking about 40,000 extra pounds of force on your knees, but it's times 4. So if you're 1 pound overweight, it's 4 extra pounds of force.
Okay, so
because your body is built to carry a human-sized frame, right? So your frame is built to carry 170, 180-pound Steve or whatever it should be, not 220-pound Steve.
200-pound Steve, right?
Whatever. That's right. A little, just
back to our thing. No, 200. I'm a real man. I weigh 200.
Just throwing that out there.
But I'm going to use that. I like that because I'm going to use it for some of the people, because I've talked to so many people that have, knee, hip, problems, and they have this weight. And I'm going to use that to help them understand the gravity of the situation and how they're exponentially causing so much strain and damage to their body just by carrying this weight, outside of, just your blood pressure, your increased rate, risk of all kinds of chronic illnesses and cancers and, so on and so forth, that all this extra weight, because a lot of it, and most of them do carry it around their midsection. That's a lot of visceral fat. And that visceral fat's the inside your rib cage. It wraps around your organs, your kidney, liver, spleen, heart. And that's a very endocrine active fat, which means it's putting out chemicals into the body that's not good for the body. So it creates that inflammation throughout their whole body when they're carrying it too. And just knowing the research I've done on it, that's where a lot of your aches, pains, and everything, because you're carrying that weight. But I like the added thing for the joint issues, because I do touch on that with them about all that extra weight and give them some numbers and make them really think about it, because it made me think about it myself. I've got, ideally, like you were talking about getting to, if I could get down to about 195, 190 would be amazing. But if I get down to that, maintain the muscle, but get that fat trimmed out of areas, that made me think about it as I want to keep, starting to run more, starting to walk and do things, and still be able to be able 10, 15, 20 years from now to be out there and just go, take a hike, go for a good long walk, and it not, look like a decrepit person trying to walk down the road.
And there's absolutely no reason, to be fair too, if my baseline is 215, and I think that's where it's going to be, 215 to 220, at my size, yours is 190 all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't care if I couldn't get to 200 pounds if I tried. I'm just too big for that. Right. And it'd be too unhealthy, because then you're too lean. You want to be about 15% body fat if you're a dude, right? 12 is super lean for people our age. 20% is totally acceptable. For women, it's about 20 to 30% is totally acceptable. So I'm going for that 15%. And at 220, I'll be somewhere right in about 15%. But I promise you, I'll be one of the healthiest 57-year-olds in the country, and you would be one of the healthiest 60-year-olds in the country. But I'm going to be 220. You're going to be 190. We're going to not be carrying a lot of extra weight. But let me read this research I did here to really give it a real world kind of feel, to incentivize you and anybody else listening about, and myself. But again, I'm working off of this. I'm going to lose all of this weight because during this is what it says: during regular walking on flat ground, your knees take roughly 2 to 3 times your body weight with each step. One knee bears most of the load, and again, it's so simple when you read this stuff, but one knee carries the entire load because the other leg is swinging forward, of course.
Oh,
right?
wow. I didn't think of that.
No, me either. I know it's so simple. It's so dumb when you read it. You're like, God, I'm an idiot, right? I got 2 legs, but really I only have one because I got to move the other one.
Yeah, when you step forward, all that load goes down on that one leg.
To one leg. One knee bears most of the load while the other leg swings forward. For a solid 180-pound guy at a normal weight, that's 360 to 540 pounds of force slamming through the joint per step. It adds up fast over 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. Your cartilage, ligaments, and muscles, though, are built to handle it when everything's in balance. So it's not a problem. It won't wear out. But you add extra weight. Here's where it gets ugly. Every single extra pound you carry doesn't just sit there. It multiplies. Studies consistently show that each additional pound of body weight adds 3 to 4 pounds of compressive force on the knee with every step. Some older data lands right at 4 times. Real-world gait labs often measure 2.5 to 3 times overall, but spike higher at peak loading moments. So that 10 extra pounds we mentioned, 30 to 40 extra pounds of force. So, as we said, over a year, that's tens of millions of additional pounds of punishment. And on stairs or when you squat to grab something, it just 10 extra pounds now feels like 40 to 50. So, compared to a normal person, normal height, but who's lean, their knees see a baseline load and recover between steps. Somebody who's obese or heavier, even carrying that extra 10 pounds, you're running the same machine, but with an overloaded suspension. So the joints don't get a break ever. The extra force compresses cartilage faster, stresses the meniscus, and fires up inflammation. Over time, it accelerates like you're running your equipment with bad alignment and no maintenance, which isn't to say that it's just, ouch, my knees hurt. It's stiffer mornings that slow you down getting up, less energy by 3 o'clock in the afternoon because your body's fighting constant low-grade pain and inflammation, higher chance of osteoarthritis, especially for women. Overweight folks carry 2.5 to 4.5 times the risk of a knee replacement needed compared to normal weight. So let me read that again. 2.5 to 4.5 times the risk of needing a knee replacement compared to normal weight people. Every 5-point jump in your body mass index bumps that odds up another 35%. More doctor visits, more downtime, spending more money on all of this. So guys in their 50s who finally dropped 30 pounds, like what we're talking about doing, what I did off the 100 pounds, my whole life changed. And so even 10 pounds, as I just described to you, figure out what your weight is supposed to be and then go find it. That's crazy numbers.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, and the thing is sometimes we need something like that to help us understand. You get so used to your weight because you see it every day. You're in front of the mirror, you whatever. You just get accustomed to it. And then unfortunately, we live in a world where, hey, you're perfect the way you are. No, you're not. There's always something you can do. Quit selling that bag of lies. It's just not true. There's always something you could do because ask those people, they're like, well, I feel like, okay, but really deep inside, let's just get real for a second. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. And that's one thing I do. We try to dig in a little deeper because we know when we get to that point about how this really makes you feel beyond the blood pressure, beyond that, as far as how is this really making you feel? And deep inside, we sell ourselves, the narrative that, like I said, you're perfect the way you are. You see the dancing fat people on the commercials. Life's great, but deep inside, they know it's not. So it really helps for me being a little bit more of a logical kind of thinking person. That even was thinking about me. If I could get 10, 15 pounds more down, maybe even 20, and I'm talking about 20 from where I already right now look just like you're doing great. but I'm not comparing myself to the average American. That bar is so low,
Right.
American male, that I could just,
Right.
now I could, with the activity I have and the general nutrition I have, I could go ahead and start hitting on some stuff that I did, and I can keep a maintenance where I'm at right now really easy. But it's not ideal, not for what I want, not for if you want that high level of life to have the pain free. I don't want to start feeling that. Everything that I talk to people and all the things I talk about, that I don't want to let that creep in.
Right.
Kind of like Clint Eastwood said, don't let the old man in. And
Yeah.
there's a way you can do it mentally, and there's a way you could do it physically, but you got to put in the effort and work to do it. It's not going to happen overnight. And you are fighting against what we have in this nation. It's kind of a rigged system against you, because a fat, unhealthy person is a very lucrative customer.
That's right.
A very lucrative customer.
Yep.
And then you come across as like, I'm going to help you. And all they're doing is just maintaining it. Their interest isn't for you to really get healthy, because then you lose a customer.
That food though, Steve, it's so good. The other thing I have all the time, and I love it, as you know, at least once a week, we go to this restaurant, Jonathan's, and we get it's called an Italian bake, and it's a bunch of marinara and 5 beef meatballs, and it's covered in mozzarella. Well, and it comes with all kinds of bread. The bread is so good, but I don't eat the bread. But we go. In fact, I'm going to have that on Saturday. But we go, or if I go with Kathy and my daughter Kira, I'll eat the meatballs and the cheese, and they eat the marinara and the bread. And so I'll get that, and then I'll get some sort of chicken breast or something along with it. My point being, I get to eat the marinara. I get to eat the mozzarella cheese melted on top. I get to eat the meatball as part of my meal. I still don't go over 1,850 calories a day. I still hit 220 grams of protein every day, but I'm eating that kind of food. So I go to a restaurant. If my wife gets fish, I'll eat her fish. But if I wanted to, I'll eat a couple of pieces of the chicken tenders that we talked about along with that meal. So the point being is, you can, if you have some sort of control, you can fix this on yourself. And the more weight you lose, the easier it is to walk. But you're sick because you're fat. That's the reality. If you're old, you're sick because you're fat. You're not sick because you're old. But let's flip it here and talk for a couple of minutes about. Steve texted me yesterday reminding me that Artemis was taking off, and I'm glad he did, because I knew about it and been following it. But to people our age, this is a big deal, because it was 50 years ago, Steve. Is that right? 50 years ago, the last time?
1972. 54. No, 73. Yeah, 53 years ago.
53 years ago. And so I thought, let's talk about Artemis a little bit. Let me give you some detail on it, and then we can get into it. So there's 4 astronauts. They are riding in the biggest rocket that has ever flown, the Space Launch System. The thing weighs, I don't understand. I watched a video the other day of this world-class dude flying a drone. Have you ever seen this thing, Steve? And he's going through this old dilapidated building. It was over in Europe somewhere, but all the windows are gone. This thing's just been wiped out in this one of these communist bloc countries. And he's flying this thing. I mean, he's got the goggles on, and it's got a video of his
VR type stuff
of his fingers, moving the thing. But the stuff he's doing with this, it's got to be fake. And I commented on it. I said, this has got to be fake. This can't be real. But of course, it is real. And I'm blown away. So that, at least I kind of understand. What the numbers I'm about to give you just don't make sense to me. I can't comprehend it. The thing weighs 5.75 million pounds, fully fueled, and that's at liftoff from the Kennedy Space Center. 2 minutes and 8 seconds in, the solid rocket boosters drop off. So you shed a ton of dead weight there, and they're moving at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. They're moving at 5,100 miles an hour. And they're moving, you don't go straight up because you'd blow all your fuel. So you use the planet against yourself, and you kind of curve your way up out of the atmosphere. 8 minutes later, the core stage separates, and you're in low Earth orbit at 17,500 miles an hour. I just don't understand these numbers. Then they light the big burn and push it up to around 25,000 miles an hour for the 4-day trip. Total journey, 685,000 miles in 10 days. They're not landing on the moon, but they're going to go around it. They're going to be, that's the most miles, I think, the furthest away from Earth ever. They're doing it in a figure 8 slingshot, and we can talk about that. But this kind of stuff, dude, it's all cool. We watch the movies. We get what it is. We've seen Star Wars. Technology makes it seem like it's such a big, or it's not that big a deal. But for guys you and my age, Steve, I think it really means something.
Yeah. It's funny when you were talking about lifting off. And one thing that was cool on this, because Kirsty and I sat in the living room and watched it. It's the first thing as an adult. And so I have to imagine when adults were watching the launches in the 60s. In 69, in the early 70s, there was that window where they were doing them, and how people would stop and go watch that. And I had work to do, but I thought, no, this is something worth watching.
Right.
As far as what we achieve as human beings and what we're capable of doing, this, and especially with technology, anybody could be out on their walk and stop and just look at their phone and watch it. We have that ability, but we're watching it. But the camera views you have now, I mean, when they ignited off the thrusters at the bottom, they had a camera in there, and it lasted for a little bit. And then I have to imagine the camera got obliterated, when it was in there, but it already sent its speed through. But it was talking about, I was thinking of that thrust when you said it's 5.75 million pounds.
Yeah.
It's 8.8 million pounds of thrust when that thing took off out of there. They say this is equivalent of 160,000 Corvette engines, or roughly 25 jumbo jets, all at full throttle at the same time.
That makes sense.
You see some of the wind theft. But it was pretty something about how what's really been cool is the commercial flights that were in the area. And I don't know if you've seen any videos, but people from planes, and that's pretty cool to be able to see something like that out your window going up through that. And it's perfect. And the one thing I remember when they've done launches, even shuttle launches, like I got scrubbed. I'm like, okay, I don't have all day here. So I was really glad when they were going through, everything was check, good to go, green, check, good to go, green. I thought, dude, this is cool. I mean, because it was, when the countdown started, there was a 2-hour launch window, and everything was on point, that it launched right at the beginning of the window. So that was kind of convenient. I mean, just for convenience sake, that it actually took off and you didn't have to hang around. But it is something to think about, the force of them being pushed out there. And then I was sitting on the sofa, and we were watching just that smooth thing. And it's not smoke, but it's probably water vapor that comes out from all the hydrogen and all that burning in there when it goes up. But I told Kirsty, it had been cool. I don't know if I've seen one. Maybe they had a camera of what they're going through, sitting in those chairs up in the top of that thing. And I sat there, started shaking on the sofa, and I said, it looks smooth on the outside, but there's a lot of moving around in that thing, as that thing's just burning that massive amount of fuel. And you're sitting at the very pinnacle of it, at the very top there. And you have all that going on behind you there. It's amazing, the technology and the science. And one thing that really caught me with science background, I knew that those thrusters on the bottom moved, but they showed them testing them. I didn't know they can move as much as they do, each of the big things. I didn't know they moved that much. I knew they can move some to adjust it, but I had no idea. I mean, they really moved those things, and I thought, man, you just think about all the components that go into that thing to be right. There's enough in a 747 or, whatever they are, the A380 now, Airbuses, that have to be in there, but everything that's in that thing that has to go right.
Well, look at this.
Remember the Challenger, it was just O-rings that caused the failure.
I don't know if you saw this one. It doesn't go like we think it goes, is what I'm trying to say, because watch the bottom one. So they're doing a figure 8, right? This is the one in 1969, but we forget the moon is moving at like 3,400 miles an hour. So when we talk about doing a figure 8, look what the figure 8 looks like. So this is the one that, my point being, this is one from 22 of December 22nd, but the moon is moving right at 3,400 miles an hour.
You hear it in the different space movies. I know, what was that? Interstellar. I like Interstellar, but they were using the planets, the gravitational. Yeah, that's right there. I thought it was something about how they took off, but they looped the Earth to have the gravity sling it out instead of just the brute force of the rocket trying to get out there. But they accelerated by staying just at the edge of the Earth's gravitational pull to sling off of it to help launch out there even more so. I thought it was
Yeah.
interesting. Before they left, it looks like they're just going up, but they do a big loop around the Earth and then use the gravitational pull of that, just like they're talking about in the movies, to launch out
Right.
to that. So yeah, that's really interesting. The physics that are going on there.
It blows me away. It's really something else. I struggle to deal with understanding exactly what's happening because, again, by the time they've come around the moon, right, and they do what we're thinking figure eight, they come around the moon. When they get on the other side of the moon is 3,400 miles an hour this direction. So they cut off a car at 3,400 miles an hour, come around it, grab the gravity. They do some burns as they do that to push them back to Earth at 25,000 miles an hour, which will be the fastest that we have ever returned. Think about if anything's off. Think about if something's wrong, right? If something breaks. Think about the G's. I don't know what the G's are when you come around. Let's find out what the G's are coming around the moon.
The point you said earlier, while you're looking that up, was that it will be the furthest that humans have ever been away from Earth, because the Apollo mission went to the moon and landed on it. We're actually going around it and using the gravity of the moon to sling us back off, like you said. So technically, it puts us further away from Earth than even the astronauts that went to the moon did. So yeah, your point's exact, that it's the furthest we'll ever have been away. And I know Elon's watching this going, yeah, we'll use the moon to get to Mars and get up with his big plans.
Well, here's how dumb I am. So I watch too many television shows, too many movies. There's essentially, when they go around the moon, according to Grok, there is 0 extra G's for the most part. There's no giant big burns needed. The moon's gravity does the steering work. It's all a gentle curving. The crew feels essentially 0 extra G's. The big problem is reentry. So they're coming. I don't understand how any of this works, dude. They come. It's like I've always said about the TV. I can explain to you how a television works. I have no idea how a TV works. The skip entry maneuver, they call it. They slow down by dipping into and out of the atmosphere like a rock skipping off of a pond.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
Didn't know this. Which spreads out the punishment. The crew experiences the highest G forces of the whole mission, around 8 to 9 Gs at peak.
Wow.
They're lying on their backs firmly in those seats. That's the force of scrubbing off all that speed so you don't burn up or skip off into space forever. The skip technique keeps it from spiking even higher. Old Apollo direct plunges could feel brutal too. Still, 8 to 9 Gs is no joke. It's like having 8 to 9 times your body weight crushing down on you for a short stretch. So they're betting their lives on precision engineering, calculated risks, and holding their line under massive G loads. One bad angle on reentry, and those 8 to 9 Gs turn dangerous real fast. Overload your body. Oh, man. Think about them dudes in the 60s, right? Think about you're the first person to do this. This is all theoretical at that point. And they're doing their math on paper with a pencil.
That's true.
Ain't no computers. Well, I don't know. In the 60s, did we even have calculators? I mean, I know
might have been a few slide rules sitting on the tables around there.
I'm guessing there were a couple of slide rules. I mean, not ones that you and I would have calculators anyway. And obviously there were computers, but not like what there is today. So yeah, anyway, that's, I wanted to talk about that Artemis. I think that is just bad to the bone. 4 dudes are out, or I guess it's 3 dudes and a woman are out there doing their thing. I don't know how they do it. 6, 7 days, 8 days. What is it? 9 days total, I guess. And then a parachute has to fall out.
Well, that's to my point exactly. Their max speed is 17,500 miles an hour. But then when it comes back in, it slows down, it says about 325, 350 miles an hour into the atmosphere. Then when the 11 parachutes deploy, it'll hit the water in the Pacific at about 17 miles an hour, which is sure there's a decent little jolt when you hit, but you're locked in and everything. But you go from a max speed of 17,500 miles an hour to the end, you kind of come in at 17 miles an hour. That's crazy. And I remember seeing videos, but I guess we'll be able to watch the splashdown and the boats will be there and they'll open the capsule thing. And
it's all going to be in 4K. It'll all be in 4K for us this time. Yeah. So, all right. That's good stuff. That's, again, I hope young people are as fascinated by this as we are, but I get why people maybe aren't, because we see it every day in movies, but obviously movies are not reality. And what these guys are doing, this is some superhuman stuff going on.
Yeah,
the guys on the ground that have designed all this, built it, put it all together, and the astronauts. Really, to me, the heroes are the nerds back there plugging in the numbers.
Yeah, and it is fun. Everybody has that little catchphrase. What do they say when something goes wrong and you're kind of letting somebody know? What's the thing they say? Space related. When there's an issue. Houston, we have a problem.
We have a problem. Yeah.
And it was something that when they were taking off, it was just a few minutes after takeoff there from, I guess it was Cape Canaveral, I'm figuring, that area there.
Kennedy Space Center.
And, but it was just a few minutes into it that Houston already had control of it. The big space, the center, because once it's up, then they're controlling, monitoring everything there. The Kennedy Space Center just gets it off the ground, puts everything together. And it's kind of cool seeing even the videos of that thing moving, that little creeper thing, which is like 4 or 5 stories tall, that machine with the treads on it, like a bulldozer tread, that just moves it along so slow because you don't want to tip that over.
No, man. All right, take us out of here.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us today. Just like when you're having, we're talking about the Artemis thing, and any wrong calculation of that, you're going to be toast. That kind of precision, accountability, calculated risk is what we talk about every day in the Kronos Group. You don't want to wing it when you have millions of pounds and 4 lives on the line, same as you don't want to wing it when you have a $1 to $25 million shop on the line. So if it's something you're interested in, getting a community, a group of guys and people that are like-minded in you trying to solve problems, join us at the Kronos Group. You can go and there'll be links in there where you can get a call to us, find out about what's going on, what we can do. It's a free call, have a conversation with us. And if you're just kind of interested in being around this mindset around business and health and life, be sure to join the Forge, the Kronos Group school community. Get in there, get around other people, learn some information, videos like this and many other videos, other podcasts and things that Jerry puts out, that we put out in there to help you understand how to do this, how to, you're thinking about it or you're already in it. Maybe you're just starting out. Get in there, learn, grow with the rest of us in there, like-minded people. We all need people to help us. We all need people to help guide us, give us perspective on these things. I guarantee you all these calculations, everything they did on this thing, I don't know how many times everything was cross-checked, double-checked and everything on something like this. It's no different in your business. Having somebody in there to help look at something, give a perspective is more valuable than you could ever realize. So join us there. It's at the Kronos Group. Go in there. The links are all there. And remember, opportunities everywhere, but you got to go get them.